Every evening at exactly 8 p.m., the lights inside house number 46 turned on for 1 hour. Then they turned off again. The strange thing was, nobody had lived there for years. At least, that's what everyone in the neighborhood believed. The house stood at the end of Willow Street, surrounded by overgrown grass and rusted gates. Children avoided walking near it after dark. Adults whispered stories about it constantly. Some claimed they heard footsteps inside at night. Others swore they saw someone standing behind the upstairs window. But nobody ever entered the house. Not after what happened there years ago. 14-year-old Mason Carter became obsessed with the mystery the moment his family moved into the neighborhood. Every night from his bedroom window, he watched the old house carefully. And every night at exactly 8 p.m., the lights turned on. Always for 1 hour. Never longer. Then darkness returned. Mason asked neighbors about it repeatedly. Most avoided the topic. But one elderly woman finally whispered the story to him. Years ago, she said quietly, a family lived there. A mother, a father, and a little girl named Claire. Then one winter night, a fire broke out inside the house. The parents survived. But Claire disappeared. Nobody ever found her body. After that night, the family vanished completely. The house remained empty ever since. Mason felt chills hearing the story. But who turns on the lights? He asked. The old woman looked nervous. That's the part nobody understands. From that moment onward, Mason's curiosity grew stronger every day. One rainy evening, he decided to investigate. His best friend Tyler thought he was crazy. You seriously want to go inside the house? Mason nodded. There has to be an explanation. At exactly 7:45 p.m., the boys climbed over the rusted gate carefully. Dead leaves covered the pathway leading toward the house. Wind creaked through broken tree branches overhead. As they approached the front porch, Tyler grabbed Mason's arm nervously. Maybe this is a bad idea. But before Mason could answer, the lights inside suddenly turned on. Both boys froze instantly. Every window glowed softly. Tyler nearly ran away. But Mason forced himself forward. The front door surprisingly opened with little effort. Inside, dust covered almost everything. Old furniture remained untouched. Family photographs still hung on walls. A clock ticked loudly somewhere deeper inside the house. But strangely, the electricity still worked. How is that possible? Tyler whispered fearfully. Mason walked slowly through the living room. Photographs showed a smiling little girl with blonde hair. Claire. One picture caught Mason's attention immediately. Claire sat beside an elderly man in a wheelchair smiling brightly. On the back of the photo, faded handwriting read, Grandpa and Claire, Summer 2004. Then suddenly, a loud creak echoed upstairs. Tyler panicked instantly. We need to leave. But Mason stared toward the staircase. Someone was definitely upstairs. Slowly, they climbed the steps together. Every floorboard groaned beneath their feet. At the end of the hallway, one bedroom door remained slightly open. Warm light glowed from inside. Mason pushed the door carefully. And both boys gasped. An old man sat alone beside the bed holding a flashlight and an old photograph. He looked shocked to see them. Who are you? Tyler shouted. The old man stood slowly. His eyes looked exhausted and emotional. My name is Walter, he replied quietly. Mason stared in confusion. You live here? Walter shook his head. No. Then why are you here? For several seconds, the old man stayed silent. Then he looked around the bedroom sadly. Because this was my granddaughter's room. Everything changed after that sentence. Walter explained everything slowly. Claire had been his only granddaughter. She loved visiting him after school every day. When the house fire happened years earlier, everyone believed Claire died inside. But Walter never accepted it completely. Because firefighters never found her body. Not even evidence she was upstairs during the fire. Walter spent years searching for answers while Claire's parents eventually gave up and moved away from the city. But Walter couldn't let go. Every evening at 8 p.m., the exact time the fire originally started, Walter returned to the house and turned on the lights. Why? Because deep inside, he feared something unbearable. What if Claire came home one night, he whispered emotionally, and thought nobody was waiting for her? Mason felt chills run through his body. For years, this old man secretly kept the house lit, hoping his missing granddaughter might someday return. Tyler's fear slowly disappeared. The story was heartbreaking, not terrifying. Over the following weeks, Mason began visiting Walter regularly. The old man lived alone in a small apartment nearby. His health was failing badly. Yet every evening, without missing a single day, Walter still walked to house number 46 and turned on the lights. Hope had become part of his survival. One afternoon, Mason asked gently, "Do you really think Claire is alive?" Walter looked at the old photograph quietly. "I don't know," he admitted. "But love doesn't stop searching easily." Meanwhile, Mason became deeply invested in the mystery. Something about the original fire investigation felt wrong to him. Why was Claire never found? Why did nobody continue searching? One evening, Mason visited the local library and searched old newspaper archives about the fire. And then, he discovered something strange. An article mentioned that during the fire, neighbors reported seeing a woman carrying a child away from the house shortly before firefighters arrived. But police never identified the woman. Mason immediately showed the article to Walter. The old man's hands trembled while reading it. "For years," he whispered, "nobody ever showed me this." Together, they reopened old questions surrounding Claire's disappearance. Who was the woman? Why was the information ignored? Could Claire actually have survived? Mason's mother initially worried about his obsession with the case. But after meeting Walter personally, her perspective changed completely. The old man carried enormous pain inside him. And for the first time in years, someone was finally helping him search for answers. Weeks later, Mason discovered another clue. A retired nurse living 2 towns away remembered treating a frightened little girl years earlier after a house fire. The child never spoke. She only repeated one word constantly: "Grandpa." The nurse eventually turned the child over to social services because no parents were located. But afterward, the child disappeared into the foster care system. Walter nearly collapsed emotionally hearing this information. Could Claire have survived all along? Using old records and social worker files, Mason's mother helped track possible matches. Months passed with dead ends. Then finally, one name appeared repeatedly: Claire Dawson. Age matched. Timeline matched. Current location: Seattle. Walter stared silently at the information sheet while tears filled his eyes. After 14 years, they finally had hope. The journey to Seattle felt endless. Walter barely slept during the trip. "What if she hates me?" he whispered nervously. Mason smiled softly. "She won't." At a quiet coffee shop downtown, Walter finally saw her. A young woman sitting near the window reading a book. Blonde hair. Same smile. Same eyes. Claire. Walter's breathing became shaky. For several seconds, he could not move. Then slowly, he approached the table. The young woman looked up politely and froze completely, because somehow, deep inside, she recognized him too. "Grandpa," she whispered. Walter broke down, crying instantly. Claire stood up, trembling emotionally. 4 years, fragments of memories haunted her childhood. Fire, smoke, a house, an old man's voice. But after being moved through foster homes repeatedly, her identity became lost completely. And now, after 14 years, she finally found her family again. People throughout the coffee shop cried openly watching their reunion. Walter hugged her tightly while whispering repeatedly, "I never stopped waiting for you." Claire cried too. "I thought nobody was looking for me." That sentence shattered Walter completely. Back in Willow Street, the story spread rapidly. The mysterious lights inside house number 46 finally made sense. They were never ghosts. Never supernatural. Just love refusing to give up. Months later, Claire returned to visit the old house with Walter and Mason. Together, they cleaned the property slowly. For the first time in years, laughter returned to the home. Neighbors watched emotionally from nearby sidewalks. The abandoned house no longer felt haunted. It felt alive again. One evening, while replacing broken curtains upstairs, Claire asked Walter softly, You really turned on the lights every night for all those years? Walter smiled warmly. Yes. Why? The old man looked toward the glowing windows thoughtfully. Because I wanted you to know. He paused gently. That home was still waiting for you. Years later, house number 46 became famous throughout the town. Not as a haunted house, but as a symbol of hope, love, and never giving up on family. And every evening at exactly 8 p.m., the lights still turned on. Only now, they illuminated a home filled with people again.